Good Taste Edibles has something wild dropping soon, and you're gonna want to be ready for it. They took their fan favorite Funfetti Crispy, you know the one that tastes like a party, and they leveled it all the way up. Coming soon, the Fruit Fetty 1000 milligram Mega Dosed Crispy. Same sweet, fruity, marshmallowy goodness, but now with a ridiculous 1000 milligrams of THC. This isn't background edible energy. This is main character energy. Perfect for high tolerance folks or sharing with the crew. Just don't say we didn't warn you. Keep your eyes peeled. Fruit Fetty Mega Crispies are dropping soon.
Welcome to Greenway Audio Magazine. I'm Tim, and with me is Brandon. Hey, buddy.
Hey, man.
Hey, how's Bear doing?
She's good. We may hear her scream and yelp in the background at some point, but she's good.
Good.
She's really good. She's gotten a lot braver, which means she's now running farther into the yard and stuff.
Now, how big will this beast become?
I don't know, because she's really small for a puppy. She was part of a really big litter.
Okay.
So she's like 10 weeks old, and she's only like 9 or 10 pounds. But based on what her makeup is, you would think she would get big.
She's grizzly.
Husky Rot Lab mix. So
awesome.
I don't know, man. She could be 30 pounds or she could be 130 pounds.
Yeah.
And I really have no idea yet. So we'll find out in 12 to 18 months together.
Yeah. We sure will.
She has little tiny paws, though.
Yeah. Oh, does she have little tiny paws? Before we get into all the top stories today, buddy, let's thank our sponsors, Good Taste Edibles and Vivid.
Good Taste Edibles.
C4.
They're edibles that taste good.
Yeah, they do. And
I really like the fruit. I really like the Fruit Fetty Crispies.
Yes, I know that is one of your favorites.
I've not tried the monster concoction that they have right now yet. I'm sure soon. I'm sure I will eventually. I'll get one and I'll take a little piece.
Come back down.
And then I'll be good. Super excited to have Good Taste. Super excited to be working with the fine fellows over at Show Me Organics.
Yes.
And their house of fantastic brands.
Oh,
I'm still waiting for the day whenever we figure out a way to bring Twice Baked Red Hot Riplets back. Rest in peace, RIP. Shout out.
We'll figure it out. Tony, if anybody can figure it out, it'll be Tony Billmeyer. One more thing that I learned on Greenway is dialed in gummies. So I've been hearing about these guys. It started to have some rumblings at the Greenway industry awards. I started hearing people talk about dialed in gummies. And I was like, I don't know what this is. They're coming from, I think, Colorado, if I recall. Okay.
They're in a few different markets.
Okay.
But Colorado's the home base, I believe. And the big thing is their rosin gummies. Like that's the big one is. Oh, you have
in the mail yesterday.
What?
In the friggin' mail. And I was like, what? Okay. Dialed in.
Whoa.
Yeah, dude. So
great target
got
marketing.
Me a 25% off. And so after reading your wonderful article on the site, it said solventless full spectrum edibles. That is right up my freaking alley, dude. They use gelatin pectin blend, gluten-free, low sugar options. Dude, what they start at 5 milligrams, they go up to 30. Dude, this is right in my wheelhouse. I'm very interested to try these.
Right in the wheelhouse.
I got my little coupon.
Got your coupon.
Coupon. I've gotten something in the mail. This is my third time getting something.
I will say. Super excited to see Dialed In coming in. If you haven't tried them yet, you should also try Dosed. That's another one that kind of flies under the radar for a lot of people.
Yep.
Dosed is really
Dosed is good. Dosed is good. I wanted to bring this up dude, okay? I've been saving this moment. I got something.
Saving space for it.
It's a, what do they call it? What do the kids call it? Unboxing?
Oh, yeah. I don't know. Oh,
Bro,
Very Vici.
If anybody's listening, please tune in to the YouTube version. This is the special edition vibe box. Holy, look at this. Signed special edition. They got some infused pre-rolls in here.
John talked about this on the podcast, talked about autographing the inside of the box. And,
look at this, dude.
Yeah.
This might be the coolest thing I've ever received in cannabis or seen as a collector's item. And they're selling them too, because I saw on Reddit that somebody drove 2.5 hours to pick one up yesterday. That is dedication. And this person got number 99 out of 99. So they are thrilled. And so am I. Holy cow. I hit up Jonathan and was like, dude, this is one of the neatest things ever. Ever.
I think I'm gonna put mine right about there.
Okay.
I'll move the sneaker candle over by the camp cup. Oh my God, dude. Put mine right over there. Oh. Yeah, it's gorgeous. Again, it goes back to what we've talked about. Vibe just has a level of excitement around the drop, and I'm a big drop guy. I'm a big sneaker culture. John's a big Jonathan Milo's a big sneaker head and stuff like that. He's really into collectibles and stuff,
obviously.
And so I think that's where a lot of that comes from. Is they're one of the companies that really get the idea of like the limited is not a bad thing. Right. Limited is something that gets people that are excited for a product get really excited whenever it's something that you have to either hunt for, you have to go out and track down, or it's something you have to stand in line for. You know, limited edition used to mean something. Now limited edition comes, 15,000, 20,000, 100,000. Limited edition used to be not because of a mass capitalist move to where you could get you could move extra units. It was something that connoisseurs, something that enthusiasts would really clamor for. And if you did multiple different ones, then maybe this guy gets one, maybe this guy gets one, maybe they go out and find it somewhere else. We see it a lot in sneaker culture. You see skateboards behind me that are limited drops and stuff like that. I love a limited drop, except whenever I don't get them. Which has been my luck with sneakers through Nike. The last four drops I've tried for. But it's still like that makes the next one that much better.
Oh yeah.
Because I've missed 4 in a row. So the next one I hit on, I'm gonna be like, oh yes.
Yes. Yeah.
So good.
The coolest thing about these things is I will have this box for the rest of my life. Like I just will. I wanted I have props today. This is a box I got like maybe 20 years ago from a band. It's like a special edition thing. Maylene and the Sons of Disaster. I don't know if you remember those dudes.
One of my favorite bands of all time.
Yeah. So here is a special box that I got from them, number 99 of 300. And it keeps all of my I got like a rock from the old Busch Stadium, I got like ultrasounds of my kids, I got some pictures of my grandparents, I got, pictures of people that had passed, like just all these cool little trinkets. And I'll have this for the rest of my life. And I think of Maylene, who is kind of a band somewhat now, but this is 20 years old and I still am obsessed with it.
And that's the limited, the thoughtfulness, the depth of that type of stuff is the same thing that we've talked about before with Timeless. They just dropped the Shred for the Cure earlier in May. limited edition skateboards, limited edition. They're always doing limited edition flip cases and all kinds of artist things and stuff like that. But there's companies. Suede's last year, Suede/Sense was a cardboard box. But the ugly Christmas sweater box that they did last year, it drew attention. I mean, I liked it so much that I literally kept the cardboard box. It's not, it's not anything like that, but it's the companies that, find ways to enrich value and stuff. We've talked about Illicit before with their artwork, with their batteries when they first came out with it. There's all these different companies in the space that find creative and engaging ways to do, exciting things. And whenever you're somebody like Vibe, the cannabis cult to some extent is the same way. It's a limited thing. Now, it may not be, something that you're going to hold on to the box forever, but it's a limited collection of some of the things that you have. Hey, you know what I know?
What?
I know about something coming up from the cannabis cult.
Tell me.
I know about something coming up from the cannabis cult. Little partnership with doing some pheno hunting.
There is a little pheno hunt, something coming. Stay tuned. Aaron was telling me.
But genuinely, like anytime we have limited, anytime we have you create a demand for something and you don't artificially inflate it. Vibe is doing it because it's a quality product in a quality, limited edition casing and stuff like that. I don't know how much of a video game geek you are, but back in the day, I'm going to really show my age here. Whenever they first released Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2,
okay,
they had a limited edition, hard case that was like $260 or something like that.
Oh, for the whole unit, not just the game.
For the game.
Ooh.
Because it came with night vision goggles.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Holy crap.
It came with night vision goggles. The next one came with a drone. Like,
okay, that makes sense.
That was like literally people clamoring for it and stuff like that. They made a limited edition Jeep to coincide with Modern Warfare 2 or Black Ops, one or the other.
That's amazing.
In all these geek culture things that I'm into, comic books, video games, sports cards and sports, limited edition autographs, limited edition, whatever. You can see I'm just, for as much as I claim to be punk rock, I'm just a mark and a consumer.
Me too.
And you tell me that it's limited edition and you make it cool and shiny, and I'm gonna geek out over it and go try and find it.
Half the stuff on this wall is limited edition, and I'm like,
my baseball glove behind me is limited edition. It's serial numbered.
Here's another thing that I literally just took from the shelf behind me is another one of my favorite bands. This has to be 20 years old. Is barbecue sauce from one of my favorite bands, Norma Jean, and it's called
Ludacris.
It's called the album was called Oh God, the Aftermath, and this is called Oh God, the Barbecue Sauce.
Excuse me, Ludacris.
What?
So you said Norma Jean's one of your favorite bands?
Yeah.
Their original name was Ludacris.
Oh, it was with like a K, right? Wasn't it?
Yeah, it was slightly different.
It was. I remember
because the rapper Ludacris got really big at the same time.
Yep.
They switched the name of the band.
Oh my gosh! Good callback, dude. Woo. But anyway,
Ludacris, Poison the Well.
yeah.
all those crazy hardcore Christian bands back in the day.
Back in the day, baby. So I have this, and I'm terrified I'm going to drop it, and it is going to stank because this is for sure 20 years old.
It has to be, because I mean we're talking 2001.
It was red at one point.
2001, 2002,
maybe something like that. Yeah.
yeah.
So anyway, yes, we are both freaks for limited edition things. So shout out to Vibe for this Familia edition. Hopefully there's still some more in stores. I don't know, but I don't know how much it is either, but whew,
it's a whole other room of my house, but
yeah.
I'm a big fan for alternate colored vinyls.
Oh, cool. Really?
So like one of my favorites. It's not super hard to find, but just happens to be one of my favorites because I think the vinyl goes so well with the actual album. Is the hot pink Father of All Motherfuckers from Green Day, because the outside art is the one with the like unicorns and rainbows and stuff like that, and then the vinyl is this like neon pink vinyl. Pink's one of my favorite colors, if not my favorite color. And then
do you have the Pink album by Sunny Day Real Estate?
No.
Ooh, it's just pink. It's the only pink thing I own is the cover of that album.
Oh, that's interesting.
Do you know?
I love Sunny Day Real Estate, but I do not have that album.
Love them. We have a guest today, and she is in the waiting room.
Super excited. Super excited to talk to. Man, I gotta stop saying super excited.
No, you don't.
In this case, I really am super excited to talk to our guest, Amy Deneson.
Yeah.
The driving force behind Phenolutions, one of the largest cannabis marketing and branding companies in the space. She's also a real advocate for education.
Yep.
And we're going to ask her a little bit about that. So rather than me talking and throw that drumstick, rather than me sitting here talking about how great she is and all the different things she does, why don't we just bring her in and let her speak for herself?
Let's bring her in. But first, Tim, I forgot who the ad
the last time I did that, you still included me doing the ad read, and I was trying to force him to do the ad read, and then you're like, no, I'm just gonna drop him in there. Man.
Let's talk to Amy.
It's crazy, guys.
Looking for award-winning cannabis in Missouri? Vivid's Florida Kush isn't just popular, it's a champion. Winner of the Major Cannabis Cup, #1 selling flower on LeafLink's 2024 list, and back-to-back Greenway People's Choice Awards for Best Cultivar and Best Product in 2025. With bold terpenes, clean cultivation, and consistent quality, Vivid sets the standard. Find Florida Kush at a dispensary near you and experience the hype for yourself. Visit vividcannabis.com to learn more. Welcome back to Greenway Audio Magazine. We are with a guest that we have been looking forward to for a while, Amy Deneson, the co-founder of Pheno Ad Agency. Amy, thank you for joining us.
A pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys. Glad to be here.
Yeah, so when I was going through your very large resume, you have so many things that still say, a previous date to present. So a lot of the stuff you have that you're working on, are they mixing together somehow? Like, can you kind of get into that?
Yeah, definitely. And I think like so many people in cannabis, we're all wearing 5 hats, doing 5 jobs, really just trying to keep this industry growing. And also, I think at this point that cannabis attracts builders. The industry right now is attracting people who are creators, and so that manifests in a number of ways. And for me, it really is all about go-to-market marketing strategy to help uplift this industry. And so the two main drivers of my time, my energy, my passion right now is really being the co-founder of Pheno Ad Agency, which you mentioned. Pheno is an ad agency for cannabinoid brands, businesses, and revolutions, because we still need to legalize this plant, get it to market, and help people understand that these products are available to them. But also, I lead the Cannabis Media Council, and the Cannabis Media Council is a trade organization. It's 100% volunteer, representing not only 25 industry leaders who volunteer their time, but also 400 members who have uplifted their voices and their hands to say, yes, we believe in the Cannabis Media Council mission, which is to create pro-cannabis PSAs through advertising in order to counteract the years of propaganda, the years of misinformation, in order to help people rediscover this plant. Many people that have known it need to get to know it again. And so in addition to pro-cannabis PSAs, and we have been in market for over 2 years with the campaign I'm High Right Now, which I'm excited to chat with you a bit more about. We also offer free resources for how brands and businesses who are in market and considering adding advertising to their marketing mix can get to know what's possible, compliant, legal for them in their markets. And so both pro-cannabis PSA on behalf of the industry as a whole, and then also resources for how brands can start considering advertising for their business. And then, of course, Pheno, when brands and businesses are ready for an enterprise solution for advertising, Pheno is an agency that can specifically serve them and the needs of the regulated cannabis industry.
That's amazing. So you co-founded it with Alice Lee.
Yes.
And I love your new title of advertising solutions called Phenolutions. Did you just come up with that in the middle of the night? I love that.
Exactly. So Phenolutions came from, first, Pheno really stands for is to display. So when we think about phenotypes of the plant is about how you display your uniqueness. So the phenotypes of a plant is what shows what makes it distinctive. And we thought that was really comparable to advertising. That's what brand businesses are doing, is showing what makes their products unique. And so Alice and I are both children of the 80s. We love Prince. And so when we think about, the dilutions of things, we're like, Phenolutions are obviously our solutions.
Yes.
And services.
I love it. I love it. First question, we can get right into it. Are we any closer to mainstream media actually understanding how to work with this industry as far as advertising goes? It's
closer than we were 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Yes, definitely.
Okay.
Certainly.
Okay.
And so I would say we are certainly moving in a positive direction. More and more mainstream media channels are opening their inventory, not only on the paid side of the business, but also they are starting to invest resources into the editorial side and looking at reportage and reporting and how to talk about this industry. And so I do see signs and positive indications that mainstream media is interested in covering and including cannabis because their readers are. We see this, that, over 79% of Americans live in a county that has a legal cannabis dispensary, and not to mention has access to the Delta-9 or the hemp-derived THC products, and notably, direct-to-consumer and e-commerce. And so cannabis is with us. Cannabinoid products are with their readers and their audiences, and they're curious about it. And so I do see shifts and openness. And also, one reason that advertising is the lead channel for both Pheno and also the Cannabis Media Council is that when we show that we can help drive revenue to media, which media companies need revenue just like every other business. I'm not saying that influences, unless we're talking about paid content, and advertorials of sorts, but it does help to connect media companies and publishers who are not cannabinoid experts with brands and businesses, resources and sources that they can trust, that are verified, that they can then start to say, okay, they're a legal business. They are contributing to our business. Let's look for ways to explore, how, they may be a source for us. And so, or how we might get to know the products better through either education and then also including in pieces where reporters are being educated at the same time as they're educating their audiences. And so I do see an openness. It's very slow. There's lots of concerns, obviously, with federal licensing and making sure that as people either accept cannabis money or they talk about cannabis, that they're within their licensing structures is something that we hear quite a bit. And then we also, with any regulated category, want to make sure that the publishers are well versed in the exact and precise terms that are required to be compliant within regulatory systems. So talking about age gating, talking about footprints and radius that people can hear messages is really important when you're talking about a regulated industry like cannabis. And so being a partner to really make sure that media understands how to be compliant. And then also, any type of, conversation around community standards or concerns about cannabis being a good business to work with or other brands to sit alongside is something that we also frequently have conversations with publishers about just to get them comfortable with the category.
One of the most interesting things about what you said, I think from our standpoint, is from Greenway's standpoint, is we're the inverse. We're not mainstream media. We're speaking directly to whether it's our consumer product or whether it's our B2B product. We're speaking directly to people who are seeking out that information. So we have a policy where we don't accept any kind of paid advertorial, any kind of paid placement or anything like that. You're familiar with it. We've worked together a few times. But I think that the mainstream we've seen with Riverfront Times back before they folded and things like that. We've seen with Sauce and St. Louis Post-Dispatch at times. We've seen with Kansas City, like the pitch and things before they really started picking up on their cannabis coverage. A lot of that started with advertorials. And part of the reason that I think that's a lot more acceptable and in fact, a positive is because what we saw before that was, unless you were, not to toot our own horn, but we're really one of 2 or 3 publications in the state that talk about cannabis on a regular basis. Especially going into the last few years. We're the only one that talked about cannabis on a regular basis in a positive business light, day in, day out, week to week. Before that, anytime cannabis was mentioned, it was very much a gotcha journalism or headline, clickbait articles. And we saw multiple references to the same lobbyists and the same things over and over and over, no matter what the story was, with 2 or 3 different newspapers for literally 3 or 4 years. Advertorials took that, and while they may have been a little bit sunny coated towards one company or another, what it did was it ingratiated readers to reading about cannabis in their normal place, in a normal voice, and just kind of slid it in there, and nobody noticed type of thing. They went up, read this article, they read the next article, and then all of a sudden everybody's like, okay, the world didn't burn down. We didn't have 10,000 people protesting and bombarding our website with negative comments and things like that. And so then all of a sudden you saw it go from advertorials to Riverfront Times literally built an entire section called the Reeferfront Times, and they were doing reviews, they were doing information and things like that. And unfortunately, an institution in kind of anti-establishment journalism is no longer there in St. Louis because of the way that some things played out. But to me, advertorials are kind of the first step of putting a positive spin to cannabis in a lot of places, because most of the time the people who have been writing about cannabis, or the people who have any knowledge of it, especially if you're not talking industry specific, have only written about it from the negative, or have only written about it from the clickbait headline standpoint for so long, that if you're wanting them to be your ingratiation point, it's probably not going to go well. So it's an opportunity for industry to speak for itself and say, here's the tone, here's the way that we want to approach this, here's some positive things, see how it goes. And in my opinion, it was really successful in Missouri, because as we saw those advertorial campaigns roll out, we started to see more and more positive interactions with other publications and things like that, which for the industry is great. And anytime we see cannabis pop up in new places, it's always exciting. And from a purely business standpoint, it'd be great for Greenway if nobody ever allowed you to advertise anywhere else. But for the greater good, I'm always very excited to see how the industry breaks through and how it finds new and creative ways of telling its own story, essentially, because the first time around, it's really hard to find the right person to tell those stories, I think.
I so hear you. I hear you through and through. And first, thank you for your leadership. Thank you for sparking and holding this torch that at times is against every odd and against all of the headwind. And so thank you first. And then secondly, I so hear you about advertorial, not only because it's long form or longer form in terms of a ad unit or a placement, and when we think about a paid channel, and allows for more storytelling, especially if we're in a digital environment. It allows for multiple links and clicking out, which I think in terms of, research and people starting to get comfortable with finding resources is really helpful. And so I so agree with you on how fantastic an advertorial can be as a placement because of long form storytelling, and then also, connectability. Also, to your point, is so spot on that oftentimes brands and businesses who are looking to advertise are working with reporters who are not familiar with the category in a positive or in the evolving way. To your point, and so brands are writing the stories anyways, or their media and communications professionals or their advertising agency is writing it on behalf of the publication anyways. And so I do think that it helps bridge that gap at the moment between reporters who are dedicated to covering this industry and very well versed with the topic and the operators, and then also the brands and businesses who are legal, who are in market, needing to connect with consumers. And then on top of what you said about advertorials and how it's influenced, it fits within the media mix. I also agree with you that mainstream at this moment, mainstream media has a very important role to play in starting to then being where people are already consuming media news that are already trusted voices or already trusted sources. Then also, being that first touch that then allows for the next touch to be Greenway, that allows for the next touch to be publications that are solely focused on cannabis as they continue down their discovery journey. Whereas, they may not seek out, specifically, cannabis publisher and information, at the first touch point. Then certainly the second or third touch point will be a cannabis focused media so that they can then start to get, further information and acquainted with the category.
One of the best things to ever happen to us from a purely statistics standpoint was semi post pandemic, tail end of the pandemic. 2021 is when the whole conversation around Delta 8, Delta 10, hemp cannabinoid products and things like that really started to explode. And we were one of the only publications in the country that was keeping tabs on state by state legislation and progression of each state and what they had going on and things like that. And so we were picked up, not advertorials, but we were picked up multiple times by, those reliable, trusted news sources. We were picked up by Wall Street Journal, Forbes, Rolling Stone a few times, and obviously Yahoo News, Google News, and things like that. But there's a difference between just having a link in Yahoo News or Google News versus being featured in an article in Rolling Stone and having a link back to us, or an article in Wall Street Journal, or something to that effect. And that did huge for us as far as our long-term growth. Obviously you get an influx of 60,000 people in a week that you didn't have last week. They're not all going to be there next week, but seeing, 3,000, 5,000 stick around for, years after that, was great. And while the advertorials do the same thing in a lot of ways for the companies, one of the coolest things I've seen with advertorials is whenever multiple companies or multiple brands would partner together. And so we saw it with Teal a few times. We've seen it with some of the brands under the Clover umbrella in Missouri, where they would partner with a dispensary chain. And so you'd have them talking about their product, and you'd have them talking about a dispensary chain and where to find it. And so you have different access points and different external links to follow to go and find different things. And to your point, it's that seamless style of going from, you were just reading an article about, St. Louis parks, and then all of a sudden you're reading an article about St. Louis dispensaries and what different, products they're going to have. And, it was a lot more concise in the early days of the market whenever they were first starting to do it, because it was very much, basically just listicles. But then it expanded to true education and consumer outreach and brand education and things like that. And I just became a really big fan of brands telling their own story in a traditional media space, for the exact reasons that we've discussed. There's you don't have to worry about what the knowledge base of the person that is trying to write about it is. I've been doing this for several years, and I still learn new things every day. I think people that have been at Greenway and have been involved in this industry are probably still learning new things every day. And the idea that someone is just going to flip a switch and go from, writing negatively and being, essentially a proponent to overnight all of a sudden being an advocate, it isn't realistic. There has to be some kind of knowledge base there. And so the easiest way, in my opinion, has always been to let people tell their own story. And that's one of the things that we do with Greenway, even though it's not with advertorials. We try to use as much of a quote, as much of what someone has to say for themselves as possible. Our whole foundation was built on going out, and whether it was legislators, whether it was attorneys, whether it was regulators, allowing people that knew what they were talking about to tell other people what they're talking about, because nobody knows everything at the beginning. And so it's easier to have someone explain directly to the class if they know what the overall schism is, than trying to regurgitate it a lot of times.
Amy, one thing that I noticed is I come more from the branding marketing side. And when everything started to slowly develop here in Missouri with, medical might being on the bill and then eventually going into rec, a lot of these companies, these startups, if you will, were like, okay, we need help. We need a consultant on putting together our application. Okay, this company does that. Okay, we need help, constructing our cultivation facility. Okay, we got somebody over here. We got somebody over here. We got somebody over here. So then they were all done with everything. And then comes marketing and advertising. And they're like, oh, well, I worked in this industry. I can bring those practices to this. It's just, plug and play. And then they realize quickly, no, it's not. And there's no money left in marketing and advertising. And it's so hard now to try to write that off or work with companies. What I love to see with your company is that you are that company, because when people come in and say, okay, let's start doing advertising, branding agency, help us. And they're like, I don't know. I don't know what the rules are. Like it's changing state by state. I think it's a full-time job keeping tabs on like what you can do, what you can't do. So to have somebody like Pheno be able to guide customers, I mean, that's brilliant.
Thank you. Thank you. And the aim is to be helpful for sure. And first, your point about there being very little money left over for marketing is real. We do see within the cannabinoid sector, marketing budgets, sub 5% of annual plan budget. Sub 5, 2% is not unusual. And that's also then tied to revenue. So if revenue is not coming in, then that budget is 2% of nothing. And so it is very challenging to be a cannabis marketer, just full stop. And it is still attracting people that are at their heart advocates on behalf of this plant, or behalf of the medicine, or on behalf of the products that can provide an alternative for people to enjoy their life. And so it really does still require people who are devoted to sharing word of mouth, sharing stories, sharing on whatever channel is available to them, either because of regulatory compliance or because of the dollars and the time and the bandwidth that it takes to get to that channel. And so being able to have someone to guide on the paid end of the marketing mix. And so thinking about the flow of it all, there's our owned channels, which are really about branding, and then also our products, our website, our communication channels, email, text. Then there's our earned channels, which is really PR and connections with reporting, people talking about us. It's influencer, depending on how they're engaging them. And then there's paid. And so paid being advertising, or if there's affiliate, or if there's a paid engagement with an influencer. And so once you get to paid, the charm of paid is that it's transactional, and that once you're aligned with the budgets and the reach and the recency and frequency, once you're aligned with community guidelines, you have an opportunity as a brand to say, I want to be here this many times, saying this, driving to that. And so it allows you to be very targeted and specific about your messaging, about your creative, about the offer that you're putting out into the world, and then also to where you're encouraging people to come learn more and engage with you. So the charm of advertising is and paid end of the spectrum is that it can be that tried and true and steadfast, dependable channel for you. But Tim, to your point, like the budgets are very lean, and so it does require one, brands to invest in it, but then two, for media publishers and the people that guide Pheno, that guide people to media publishers, to be as authentic, to be as straightforward, to be as, trustworthy, to say this is the best way to spend your dollars in order to accomplish these goals. And so, yes, everybody wants to drive sales and drive revenue, but there's also other parts of the marketing and discovery journey that a customer and a consumer goes on that advertising can serve. And so I do believe that it's really important for brands, their advisors, and then also the media partners that they're working with, for everyone to be very clear and full of integrity on what they can accomplish realistically on those channels together.
If we can circle back to the I'm High Right Now campaign, I'd love to get into it because it's such a bold campaign. Could you talk about where the idea came from and like what kind of responses you got from people? Did they get it right away? Did it take some explaining?
Thank you. I'm High Right Now.
Me, man.
Like, do you see how it just went like a joy bubble just went through this, like
It did.
all 3 frames? Like we're all in different worlds.
Yep.
And first, like that joy that just went through is first of all, the point of the campaign, that uplift.
Look at our faces.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like that.
That is part of.
He got me because I was so excited to talk about that was the next thing I had brought up. So I'm just loving the timing because we're simpatico now.
Yes. Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Yeah, excellent. And so with I'm High Right Now, the council, the Cannabis Media Council, when we set out to create a pro-cannabis PSA, so really an advertising campaign on behalf of the industry as a whole, so not one brand in particular, but the plant, and then also for people to reconsider the plant as it was becoming more and more legal and across the states. And so when we came together as a council, the first question was, can we reach all 50 states in the first year? And I said, yes, we can, but we're going to have to put out a message that can work in all 50 states. And then secondly, then what do we want to say? What do we want to say to places that are legal or becoming it or not at all? And so really the message was around getting people to reconsider, wanting people to reconsider the plant, but also notably language has been weaponized. And so high has been weaponized. As you look through some of the other initial campaigns, the idea of cannabis being a gateway is language that's been weaponized. And so we wanted to look at the message and how we can start to specifically confront misinformation, weaponized language, and shift it and expand it, even expand the idea of what does it mean to be high. So as we started to center around expanding language, confronting weaponized and stigmatized language in cannabis use, we then said, okay, who do we want to speak to? And we want to speak to our elders. We want to speak to the people who have been misinformed and in many cases had medicines that are part of their heritage, part of their lineage, part of their understanding of the world taken from them, and speak directly to our elders, not only because they are going to have to get to know this plant anew, because the cannabis today is not the cannabis of 40 years ago or 50 years ago, and then also because our elders within the family and within communities are people of leadership. And so if we can have intergenerational conversations with our elders, if our grandma's okay, with cannabis conversation at the table because, grandma has a cream so she can keep playing golf and living her full life, then it really does have a conversation, one, within, the adults of the family talking about cannabis use and normalizing it. But then it also allows for adults who are starting to take care of their parents to, reapproach the topic of these products being available for medical or wellness uses. And so helping adult children who are starting to caretake be able to have a conversation. But mostly with I'm High right now and featuring our elders, it's because they are the consumers in many cases. And they're overlooked as people are chasing and wanting to really spotlight a cannabis culture that includes our elders. And so we wanted to show our elders living a full life. And so in the first campaign, people are, getting back into their old ways intimately. They're playing golf. They're getting back into the garden. They're also going out and getting their steps in. Their sunset strolls have never been brighter. And so showing people living their full life and saying I'm high right now is also an indication and a point of saying I'm high right now because I'm living my full life, and not so much so that it has to always mean that that I'm elevated mentally, but that is that I'm so happy to be doing the things that I love and I enjoy because I'm able to without experiencing pain or experiencing discomfort. And so I do think that the initial campaign of I'm High Right Now was to speak directly to our elders because they're our consumers and they have also been the most stigmatized. But we wanted to spark conversations. And so 2 years deep into this campaign, we have so many questions that have been asked of us. And so now the next version of the campaign that was just released, and we did release I'm High Right Now, the new version on Meta. And so we were able to continue it on. And the reason why we chose Meta was because it's a question and answer format. And so we are actually featuring the questions that have been asked of us in this initial campaign, in the second campaign. And so we're, one of the questions that, that came out of the gate was, can cannabis stop this recession? And of course, everyone's thinking about the economy and the effects that it can have, but this was actually about baldness, and going bald. And so, which is amazing. And so, while, it may not affect the follicles, you may care a little less, once you're high, was the answer. But then there, based also on our educational partners through LeafWell, which is wonderful to be connected with them as an educational clinical. They're doing incredible work of connecting insurance and integrated care with medical cannabis. And so there are some scenarios in which cannabis directly to the hair follicles, when it's a medically induced hair loss, or there's connections with other medications that you may be able to look at cannabis as something for hair regrowth. Balding, that we just gotta care less, but we can see that there are some scenarios that it's worth looking at cannabis as potentially connecting for if it's a medical response. And so I'm High Right Now question and answer campaign will continue to roll out through multiple media channels and serve to be a continuation of that question and answer dynamic. And then we are, as a council, looking for ways to bring those questions and answers into live forums. So whether that's webinars or looking at panel events, and really serving to show the questions that are coming in that deserve very serious answers and nuanced and complex answers. And so that'll be the next phase of I'm High Right Now with the council.
That is great. I've noticed, I've worked on the branding agency side for a long time, and I've worked on a lot of campaigns where the company was like, "This is our messaging. Here it is. Now let's just sit back and see how people react, and then we'll find some ways to get some data and some insight, that kind of thing." But when we've had clients that opened up a conversation with the consumer, you get so much insight. You really understand if you're on the right track. If you're not on the right track, you could be putting all of your eggs into one basket, and this one little avenue over here might be where all of the insight is. So but you don't know that until you have that conversation with the consumer. So having that Q&A forum is just genius. I love it.
Tim and I are both big fans of puns and wordplay. we're dads, and I think any dad over a certain age is a fan of wordplay and puns. So one of my favorite parts about the overall project has been both the wordplay aspects and the reclamation of language. We talk very frequently. I'm probably one of the people who says most frequently that I think we've overcome destigmatization. And I think we have, for the most part, especially with certain age groups. If you look at the total populace and stuff going from, younger to older, I think the vast majority cannabis is destigmatized for now, especially when we're seeing, national ad campaigns and, lots of inside jokes, and everybody talks about Willie Nelson and those types of things. But to take language like gateway drug and twist it and say absolutely it's a gateway drug, you're darn right it's a gateway, to take words like high and kind of twist the old adage of I'm high on life. Those are the things that I really enjoyed about the way that you guys were using creativity to basically speak to the target audience, because those are the things that people my age and older were told time and time again. You don't need drugs when you can be high on life. You don't need marijuana or cannabis because it's a gateway drug. If you take one puff of reefer, you're going to be a cocaine heroin addict and you're going to die by the age of 15. And you're already 17. You're going to go back in time and die. That's what's going to happen. That type of messaging and those fire and brimstone scare tactics were really what I think one of the most iconic ads of all time is the fried egg in the frying pan. This is your brain on drugs, and they weren't talking about heroin whenever that was the advertising. So seeing what you guys did, I love the campaign of you're darn right it's a gateway. I love the campaign of I'm high right now, just because it really felt like we're addressing head on all the things that we've been misinformed about, and we're renormalizing that verbiage as well. We're taking the negative power away from it, and reclaiming it as, we are. It's okay too. It's fun. Life is fun. It's good. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Hey, I'm here for it. Thank you for this. I'm here for the feedback, and it's wonderful to hear it, because you do create these, and you're creating with the best of intention. But you're around the table. You're in the creative circle. In this case, we had Sister Mercy is our creative agency, who's really predominantly led the efforts to create this campaign. And as we spoke about, no less than 12 volunteers came together to create this, and we knew that we were being bold, but with advertising, and especially something that's serving to shift a narrative to open hearts and minds, is we have to get right to that edge of being uncomfortable, and being concerned that it's going to be, it's going to come off, and so we were all there, because we remember the frying pan, so many were, DARE graduates, and there's nobody in my world, and I'm going to assume as dads, that wants kids to be consuming cannabis. This is not what we're talking about. We're talking about adults having an adult conversation about a plant-based product that may serve either for their enjoyment or their wellness or their medical needs. And so I do think it's always very important, and part of targeting our elders is that we're talking to adults. And we're making sure that on the channels that we're talking to adults, age gating, all of the things that make it responsible with our operators, continually, being that advocate of you're at the point of sale. And so you have to hold the line. And so really, encouraging people to having adult conversations. But there are many, many, many adults that have been misinformed. And so when we talk about, countering those ad campaigns that were shown on children's specials, and countering ad campaigns that were run through and through, elementary, junior high, high school education that were just frankly wrong. We now have, generations of adults who are misinformed about something that may improve their life. And so I think it is always very important to say that when we're countering misinformation that we received at all ages, but to say that this conversation, is about adult consumption and normalizing it and educating people so that they can make good decisions about what they consume as adults.
I want to see a revised version of the "This Is Your Brain," where like one side is a cluttered room full of just too many things and stuff just spilling out of it, and the other side is just like someone sitting quietly and meditating.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is your brain on a normal day, and this is your brain on drugs.
Yeah,
because that's me. Like,
yeah.
ADHD, depression, all the things that we talk about as far as mental health and mental wellness. It's cannabis is not one size fits all, but for most people it's all sizes fit one. And so I think that a lot of times as an industry, we kind of miss that. We make, products to mass appeal and things like that. But at the end of the day, most people can find something that fits their needs, and it does something unique for them. And with me, it really is just the ability to like zone in and calm down and just have quiet thoughts for a little while sometimes.
Bingo.
Tim knows how important that is because he talks to me too much.
Amy, thank you so much for joining us. Before we let you go, though, we do have a question we ask all of our guests because we want to get to know a little bit more about them as a person. What are you listening to right now? Not right now, because it sounds like there's traffic and you're in a city of some sort. But what is on your, I almost said iPod. What are you listening to currently?
Oh, thank you for that question. I love Chani Nicholas. She's an astrologer. I listen to her daily. She is as above is so below. And I think Chani Nicholas as a person who connects in, with what's going on with the planets and the stars, and Star Nation can also be part of, how we see our day and how we see our energy moving through it. And so an absolute daily check-in for me is always the Chani app. And so I would encourage people who are looking for a dose of clarity, but also like, that's why I'm feeling that friction, perhaps. Let me see this as an opportunity to move through it or to move slowly, is something that is a daily inspiration for me.
I love it. I love asking this because I get to find out new things every week.
So that's a podcast?
So she does a podcast. There's also an app that has daily conversations or weekly conversations about how the planets are moving and then how it affects you, based on your astrological makeup of either being
what the podcast is called?
Your sun sign. I'd have to look to see, what the name of the podcast. Her book is You Were Born for This. So it really looks at what was your natal chart in the exact moment that you were born, and then sets you on a course to say, okay, like as this astrological makeup, this is what you could be inspired by.
That's awesome. I love it.
I haven't. We haven't gotten one of those before. We haven't gotten metaphysical yet.
No, that's what I love.
I'm excited for metaphysics. I learned all about rocks and crystals and stuff over the last couple years. I'm trying to be grounded and hit my different chakras and stuff.
There you go.
Yeah. Y'all didn't know that I knew about chakras.
There you go.
I'm here for
Love
it.
Yes. Amy, thank you so
that's
much.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much for joining us. It's been very insightful. To everybody listening, please go to Phenolution.com to learn more about Pheno, the ad agency. And Amy, thank you so much. And hopefully we'll be seeing you around here in Missouri at some events.
I would love to. I can't wait to come through.
All right.
And cannabismediacouncil.com to learn more about the PSA campaigns and some of the educational outreach that Amy and many of the other people on that board are doing to help right the ship and reinvent the wheel, essentially.
That's right.
I appreciate you all. Thank you. Thank you for all your leadership, all the storytelling, all that you're doing to help people get educated and connected and live their best lives. So thank you. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all you're doing.
Thanks, Amy.